Hey guys, welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews, and today we're going to talk about controversy in games. A lot of this is spurred by the recent Far Cry topics, which we're going to debunk a couple of the other things about Far Cry first here right at the beginning of this video. So there's a few people who honestly were upset about the microtransactions in Far Cry, and I can tell you in Far Cry 5 there is no need for you to ever buy a microtransaction, nor is there ever going to feel like there is a need for you to buy a microtransaction, because they're all skins. So unless you really just want to buy a skin to show off to your buddy while you're playing co-op, you're probably never going to buy that microtransaction. So yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, why does it need to be in there? Why does it matter if you don't feel like you need to buy them? Because it's all stuff you can earn in-game with in-game currency. So this is what we call complaining constantly, even when complaining isn't needed. We're upset now because they made you feel like you didn't need to buy a microtransaction. Seriously? Are you kidding me? Then some people are upset that they used a season pass. Well, considering these season passes are taking you to two very different locations that have nothing to do with this game, one of which being on Mars, and giving you a remastered version of Far Cry 3, again, I don't see the problem with them having a season pass. Paid expansions don't bother me when they aren't something that was cut from the game. It's like when you look at The Witcher or Skyrim. Those are all things that added drastically to those games over time and were well worth their value, even in just a play hour term, like if we're just judging it off of play hours. Alright, so on to the next bit here. This is where we're going to get into the controversy parts. So, some people were complaining, saying that Far Cry 5 promised to be controversial. If you watch the trailer, it was going to be controversial. Not quite. If you watch the trailer, it shows a cult, and it shows that it takes place in America, and people got triggered and upset by that, because that's what we live in. These days are literally just full of triggered people. Everyone's triggered by something. I could pet my dog and someone would be upset about the way I pet my dog. No, you're going the wrong way. But here we are, triggered about what they showed in the trailer, making it this huge news publicity. Everyone was talking about how triggering it was and how everyone was up in arms about it. I even did a video talking about how people were triggered by what they had shown in the Far Cry 5 trailer. But never did it make it seem like it was going to be some big political standpoint. And there's a lot of people that have reviewed this game in a negative way. We're not going to say any names, but either way, I feel that these people were pretty much garbage reviewers anyways. Prior to this review, stated this was this game's opportunity to take a stand. They could have done something important and addressed the gun problem here in America. So, in America, we don't really have a gun problem. We have a mental health problem. We are disguising it as a gun problem because the gun problem would be easier to handle than a mental health problem, but not in the long term, because then you still have crazy people on the loose without them getting the help that they need. Which, trust me, if you're in a cult, you're crazy. And they do address that these people are crazy. I mean, it's pretty much brought front and center. And I don't really know how you could hate people more than a cult. And a lot of people don't realize this, but this cult is very landed in reality to a certain extent. Obviously, if you play the game, a lot of the story is not planted in reality, but this cult is very reminiscent of the whole David Koresh incident in Waco, Texas. So for those of you who don't know, there was a cult guy said he was the second coming of Jesus, essentially, and people believed him. They amassed a bunch of guns and stuff and had this stronghold out in Waco, Texas, and wound up in a shootout with the FBI. Yeah, it got that serious. This was in like the late 90s. If you have not read about the Waco, Texas incident, you really should, because it's pretty crazy that this actually happened. And it's even more crazy that the government wasn't involved sooner, even with them knowing about them ahead of time. So, now, I'm not saying games shouldn't be controversial and games can't cover political topics. You can look at plenty of games that I could point out that have had more controversial themes. And I'll stick to stuff where it's more artsy and artistically done. We argue that this is an art form and that these are just as important as books. I'm referring to games, are just as important as books and movies. But if we're going to limit them on the controversial topics they're allowed to talk about, and this is the other problem too, we now live in a culture where because it touches on a topic that you're too sensitive about, I don't necessarily mean you the person watching, but you the person who's triggered, they're not going to be able to touch on that topic because no one's going to buy the game because a difference of opinion is too hard for you to hear as an adult that it hurt your sensitive little emotions. I don't know if you know how this worked, but that's also how a banned book list happened. Books like The Catcher in the Rye, stuff like that, all wound up on those lists because it hurt someone's feelings. How dare you talk about a sensitive topic? Well, that's how we create awareness for these topics and try to avoid them happening again, is by creating awareness and bringing them to the forefront and making them attentive. So you can look at games like BioShock. The original BioShock is, again, going to be more on the controversial side. It is this broken off area from the US. They started their own kind of government, and these people are all spliced out of their mind on these drugs that change their DNA and their genes. It involves brainwashing and stuff along those lines. BioShock is an awesome game series. If you haven't played it, you should. The original BioShock is just as good as a lot of more sensitive and touchy books like 1984. That's a book, by the way, for those of you who don't read. BioShock Infinite, as well, is also another one of those stories where it's kind of based around this cult. Well, I mean, our whole government's kind of like a cult because we worship and praise the Founding Fathers, but then there's a cult that worships John Wilkes Booth, and segregation's still going on at the time. I don't even just mean against African American people, but segregation against gingers, Irish people. They mostly show them as gingers because my wife's a ginger. I'm allowed to say that, okay? There's nothing offensive about that. But and then you can also look at like Mafia 3, which took place during like the 50s, 60s time period. And the way that they handle the racism in the game, and just when the character's walking down the streets, I can tell you I've never personally experienced it. However, the way that the character is interacted with sometimes by just NPCs walking by him is kind of shocking. And I understand where some people are bothered by that, because that was a big complaint about Mafia 3 when it came out. But that happened. Or when we complain about, oh, well, the Nazis are hanging people in trees and burning all of the Jewish people. Well, that's because they actually did that. I understand it might be too hard for some of you people to be able to put your big boy pants on and sit back and enjoy the story that you're being told, and maybe understand that that's part of how they make you dislike the character is by showing you what they did. But we're turning into a culture that's essentially what Anita Sarkeesian wanted, okay? We're sitting here, and we got all these people, everything is racist, everything is sexist, and it's our job to point them out on it. Yeah, that was an Anita Sarkeesian quote, and I sound just like her, and I actually look quite like her too. We have matching facial hair. But is that what we want? Do we want to live in a culture where everyone is bothered by everything and every sensitive, touchy topic is just completely blown out of proportion by someone? Is victim culture really that important to everyone at this point? Like, is feeling like a victim just that much what you need in your life? It's really upsetting to me, and it's something that I honestly just cannot stand at this point. Everyone wants to be the victim. It's what makes you the most money. You want controversy? That sells. That gets you money. It's not. I would rather have these awesome stories and not be upset and ticked off that they decided to tackle a topic in a way that was tastefully and artfully done. Just because it is a sensitive subject or topic. But the more we limit them, the less they become an art. It's that simple. If you want this to be a respected art form, they've got to be allowed to touch on the same things movies or books would. And I don't get why people are going, and a lot of people are saying, oh, Far Cry should tackle that gun thing. It is about a group of people in the US using firearms that they own to defend their state because the government wouldn't get involved. The federal government wouldn't get involved. So, yeah, I doubt anti-firearm was the way that game would have probably went. Personal opinion. But you also can't have a whole team pitch a political view because not everyone on that team might have had the same political view. So I can't go, oh, I know you're very anti-firearm, but we're going to have you make it a pro-firearm part of this game. It's not how it works. Games are made by multiple people. So, guys, let me know what you guys think about this whole subject. If you think games should be allowed to be on more controversial topics. Do you think that games are too offensive as is, maybe? Maybe your safe space was invaded during this video a little bit. But let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing your guys' opinions and feedback on all of this. Also, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, you can click that subscribe button, ding that little bell, it'll let you know when I upload videos, and you can follow me anywhere listed in the description box below, which is pretty much everywhere. Thanks for watching. I'll have plenty more content coming for you, and stick around.